Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mind After the Game. My name is Sarah Sirard, and I am joined by Matt Bischoff, an SFW host. So, really excited to be here. Thank you for letting me use this service, but also thank you for meeting with me.
Oh, no problem. I think it's cool what you're doing. And it's honestly, I've done so many podcasts with Fair Play. And in addition to that, been on Rob C's podcast and many others as a guest. And sometimes it's cool to be on the guest side versus the host. Because even
Yeah.
before doing podcasting in the 90s, I hosted like my own music video show called Urban Discipline, where it was like kind of like just like an MTV Headbangers Ball. We'd have, record labels would send us videos and I was the host. So it's always been something that I've done is being like on camera personality guy. I'm just a type A type of person, which is why I was able to get on Survivor. And even before that, I was on a show called Miami Inc. on TLC
Oh, yeah.
network, getting a back piece tattoo by a guy named Chris Garver. So yeah, I've done, and then through my BMX career that I had, I was, the host of many different BMX events, like an MC, like live on NBC Sports, interviewing people and so forth. So yeah, it's something that I dig doing, and I'm happy to be here with you tonight.
Yay! That's awesome. So, pretty much like I explained to you before, we're going to be diving into more of the kind of not the less about the game and more about you and how you guided yourself through the game mentally or struggles and things like that is what we'll be more looking at. So, I guess I'd really like to start by even before the game. So, you get that call that you're going to be going to casting, you're going to casting, you're in finals, all of these things are happening. What was that like for you?
Well, I can tell you, in about 2003, I applied for Survivor. I made a VHS, this ridiculous video, sent it in. No one ever contacted me, and I never applied again until 2011. I don't know why. I was a huge fan of the show the entire time. I just was like, man, too many people apply for this show. There's
Mm-hmm.
no damn way I'm getting on it. I guess that's kind of, and then it just was out of sight, out of mind. And then in 2011, I got rid of my cable TV, so I was watching Survivor on CBS.com at the time. And, it was like, if you would like to apply on Survivor, go to this website right now. So I was like, I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I'm going downstairs, I'm making a video, and I'm getting on this damn show.
Nice.
So I literally grabbed my video camera on a tripod. I had a black sheet like backdrop, and I set the camera up and I hit record. And I just was like, hey, I'm Matt Bischoff. I'm 38 years old. I'm a pro BMX bike rider. I'm a husband, all this stuff. And so I talked about how I go to beard and mustache competitions. And then I would go in and edit myself on stage with a bunch of bearded people at a beard event. And then I said, hey, I'm going to do great in the challenges because I ride BMX, I snowboard, I wakeboard, all this stuff. And then I would show myself doing all those things, right?
Cool.
And then I was like, but my greatest achievement is, being a great dad. And then I showed footage of my kids and my wife. And so I made that video. I filled out the first little application thing it's real brief. The first one, when you submit your video, I submitted it. And then about a week later, I would say I was at Chipotle eating and my phone rang and it was like, private number restricted. I didn't even answer it. I just let it go to voicemail. And then I saw, I was like, oh, there's a voicemail. And so I clicked on my phone and they're like, hey, this is Ken from Survivor. And please call me
Wow.
back. I love it. And I was like, Tessa, they're fucking Survivor called me. I was like, holy shit. I was like, she's like, oh my God, are you serious? I was like, yeah, they fucking called me. So I went outside and it was cold out. This was like November. I applied in like probably October. So it was like November-ish. I go outside, I call this guy back, and he immediately started drilling me with all these crazy questions. Like, well, why'd you even apply? And why do you think you're going to win the $1 million out of anybody? And I was like, well, because, and I was super confident in just answering his questions like I would to anybody on the street asking me questions. And then he's like, all right, cool. He's like, it was good talking to you, Matt. He's like, you may hear from me, or this may be the last time we ever talk. Click. And I was like, fuck. So I go back in and I tell my wife all this stuff. And from that moment, from the first phone call, I was playing the game of Survivor. Casting puts you through a mental mind game of you're literally, I look at it like I was playing Survivor from that moment. So this is November of 2011. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't know when they were going to call me back. So a few days later, my phone rings. It's the casting guy. Oh. He starts talking to me again, maybe a half-hour conversation. And then it's like, hey, we loved your first video, but we want you to make another video. And I'm going to shoot you an email that's going to break down what I want you to refocus on your second video. So what the casting guy is doing is prepping me. He wants me to get on the show. Like, so he's prepping me for if I make it all the way to the finals where they fly me to LA and I meet Lynn Spillman at the time and Jeff Probst and everybody, that I brought this guy out here because Matt Bischoff is a badass and we want him on the show. So I went through all these multiple phone interviews, probably like 5-6 phone interviews over, I would say, a month and a half or something like that. I made that second video, which was better and more dialed in than my first video. And then I finally got a call that said, we want you to come out to LA for the finals. So they flew me out to LA. They put you in a hotel where you're basically sequestered. You can't leave your room. You go under a fake name, like an alias.
Interesting.
And you cannot talk to anybody. So they're like, go to your room and wait for, your phone to ring for further instructions. So I thought all this shit was hilarious. I was like, this is so wild. Like I could see some people really freaked out and really bother them. But I've done a lot of crazy shit in my life. So I was just like, man, this is awesome. So I remember the phone ringing and they're like, do not talk to anybody. Leave your room, go to the second floor. Someone will meet you there. And so I was like, okay. So I walk down the hall, get on the elevator, go up. Someone's there to greet me. It's the guy that was my casting director. He walks me to this door to like a hotel suite. Oh. And he says, all right, when this door opens and someone comes out, you're going to walk in there and this is go time. This is your one chance to prove to them why you are here, etc. So this girl comes out and I was like, all right, here we go. So I walked in there and I sat down and I did not even let them ask me shit. I sat down on a chair and I was like, what's going on, Lynn? I was like, my name is Matt Bischoff. I'm 38. I'm a BM. So I gave my own bio because they kind of told me that, like, don't sit there and let them ask you questions. You need to be confident. And so I just kind of guided the conversation and didn't act intimidated, but I was just myself. I wasn't trying to be anyone that I'm not. And for the people that try to apply for a reality television show, they are looking for certain character types. If I was filming a video, running around naked, doing crazy ass stuff, and then when they meet me, I'm not that guy, they can see right through it. You got to be your true authentic self. And so I went in there and I talked, and then I went back to, it went well. We laughed and shit. And then I went back to my hotel room and I was in that hotel room for like 10 days, made it all the way through the casting process, which, you know, you can't really leave your room except for if they call you for an interview or psychological testing. You have to pass a crazy psychological testing with the Survivor psychologist person to make sure you're not going to go out there and go crazy and kill somebody.
Yeah, understandable.
So, went through all that stuff, made it to the end. Before I left, they gave me a bunch of vaccinations. So I was like, okay. And I knew people were getting cut because I knew that you're in this hotel and you see at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you see the same people there. You're not allowed to talk, but those are the people going through the same process you are. And I would see people like leave. Because quite frankly, it's funny because when I went to my casting for season 26 Survivor Caramoan, Tyler Fredrickson from season 30 was at my finals. He got cut from my season. Jeremiah Wood from Brains, Brawn, and Beauty was at my finals. He got cut. Max Dawson from season 30 was at my finals. He got cut. I'm trying to think who else. There was several people that got cut that made it on later seasons. So never give up. If you go to Survivor and you make it to the finals and they cut you, they'll probably use you for down the road. So anyways, that whole process, to me, you have to be mentally strong because like I said, they're trying to break you down and screw with your head and to see how you react in this crazy reality television show casting. And I can see if you were kind of unstable or I don't know. I'm just a happy-go-lucky guy that can deal with certain situations. So I loved it. I thought it was fun. But yeah, that whole process is very stressful. Then you wait. I get the phone call, a month later or a couple weeks later, or whatever, once I got home, that you made the show. And I will tell you something. I'm not going to tell the reasons why, but so I made the show, and I don't think I've ever said this on any podcast. I made the cast of Survivor, and then one day I get a phone call from Lynn Spillman who says, "Hey, something's come up. You may not be on the show." After they told me I was on the show, and I was like, "Are you?" I was devastated. So I was like, "Please, like, what the hell's going on?" So for like a week or something, I was like in limbo. Like, did I just make the show and then get cut from the show? This is terrible. And then they finally called me back and they're like, "Oh, everything's sorted out. And we really love you. And we didn't like your backup person," which I think probably was Max Dawson, because we both we were the only beard people at the casting. Like, he's the only other person with a beard. So I'm like, if they want a bearded guy, me and him were the only bearded people. So anyways, I ended up making it on the show. But that right there was a very difficult, like, wow, the highs of highs and the lowest of lows, the potential that, and this happens a lot. Like, hey, you're like, even with season 41, when they had cast the show, they had the cast pre-COVID, then they decide they're doing a percentage of people of color. So I think they say, "Oh, we can't film because of COVID, so we're pushing back filming, and we got to redo the cast because we got to do the people of color." So there's people probably that got cut from that hopefully they're on season 42 or 43 or whatever. But it is a very mentally exhausting deal to get on one of these shows, and this is before you even go to film and be put on national television.
Wow.
So that's my casting kind of story of how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, that was wild. In general, there was so much that you had to go through just to even just get onto the show.
Exactly.
And I have heard that about the feeling like it was kind of like a mind game. That is something I have heard before. So you're not the first person I've heard that from. So you get on the show, you're all good. You don't have any of that fear of being taken away. Well, maybe you do. So then how was it when you actually get to the island?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Survivor. I've watched since day one. So, first of all, when they fly you out to location, I was in the Philippines, it takes like 30 hours to get to where I was.
Wow.
It's the most, where we went is the most remote, insane experience to get there. It's like, first of all, I'm leaving my wife and my kids, which was the worst.
Wow.
Like, I was like, this is going to be my hardest thing to overcome because I'm a big family guy. But I did tell myself, look, I have my wife's blessing and have a great time, Matt. You love Survivor. I'll be fine with the kids. You go have fun. So I tried to really focus on, I'm living my dream. Like, this is like a dream come true. And this is only temporary. So I dealt with it the best I could, just being away from family. But yeah, 30 hours. You fly to like from LA to where we fly to, like Korea. And then from Korea to Manila, Philippines. And then you get on a bus, you go to another airport and fly from this little dump of an airport to some like super remote ass place. We land and we get off the plane and there's like a freaking like volcano, like an inactive volcano right there. We're like, holy shit, we're on the other side. And then get on another bus and drive for like an hour through these old villages and shit. And then you finally pull up to this where the ocean is and there's a boat waiting for you. And then it's like an hour and a half boat ride, no talking the entire time, boat ride across the ocean to this. They get you out of the boat and they put you in these vans that are completely blacked out. You can't see where you're going. And you end up going to this house. It's called the pregame house. And you're there with your cast, my tribe. But there's no talking. There's people monitoring what you got going on. So you're in this house for like a week and you don't know when the game's going to start. So this is prepping you, you're making eye contact, body language. I'm looking over at people smiling, kind of making like wink, wink, like, hey, you and I, just kind of playing the game before you're playing the game. Then they wake your ass up, at 3 a.m. or something, mic you up, and they're like, the game is starting right now. And they get you on the boat for the opening scene of Survivor Caramoan when we're on the ocean and, a group of fans. And I had the very first confessional of my season. Out of anybody, I had the first confessional. And so when I'm on that boat, because I'm a super emotional dude, and when I'm on the boat and I'm like looking at the ocean and I'm just looking around, and I was like almost like tearing up with I was just so overcome with emotion that like, holy fuck, like I am out. This is real. I've loved this show for so long. And I'm actually playing this. Like, is this even happening? Like, this is so unbelievably awesome. I was just overwhelmed with emotion. So when we first, we landed on the beach and we walk up, and then Jeff Probst is like, welcome to Survivor. It's just like the greatest feeling ever. But you're also freaked out because you see a challenge kind of set up in the water there. So when they bring in the returning players on these helicopters. And we're just like, holy shit. And everyone, it's like so surreal. And then he's like, all right, we're getting to a challenge right now. So it's like, it throws you into the game immediately. And so you don't even really have time to even like, you're just like, holy shit, like we're really doing this. Like nothing can prepare you for what's about to go down. Like I told someone the other day, like it was so funny when my wife was pregnant, we went to these like natural childbirth classes. Man, none of that stuff, changing a diaper, like there's no preparation you can do to actually having a child of your own and figuring it out. And that's what Survivor's like. I'm a fan. I watch it. I love it. But until I was out there, it was like, I had no idea of how gnarly it was. And, playing the game, it was just, I loved every moment of it. It was, I took it very seriously. Like I was just like, holy shit, I'm playing Survivor. And the one thing I regret is I'm a funny guy. I crack jokes constantly, and a lot of my sense of humor didn't get shown through my edit, and I think it's because I was so focused on strategy and gameplay and my alliance with Michael Snow. And I was like, holy crap, if I played Survivor again, it would be like way less stress. And I think I would like be able to, I don't know, be edited more in a fun way. But I was just like, man, I'm playing Survivor and I took it very seriously, and I was strategizing and thinking the whole time. And, but yeah, playing it as a fan, greatest. I mean, you can't put it into words how awesome it is unless you've played Survivor. That's what sucks. It's like, I would love for my wife to play Survivor, or if I played Blood versus Water, which we actually got contacted for the second Blood versus Water.
Oh.
But they ended up making an all newbie season Blood versus Water. Yeah. So that kind of, that's when Keith Mail and his son, and there was, so like that second Blood versus Water. So we got shafted on that. And that's the only time I've ever been contacted, which sucks. But I wish my wife could play, because it's the only experience that we haven't got to experience together. And so I can tell her how gnarly, being around camp and the lack of food and the friendships you make and how intense it is. But unless you're out there, it's kind of like, people that go to war. It's like no one knows until you're, not that I'm saying Survivor's like war, but you know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm getting at. It's just an unbelievable experience. So, but, playing the game, when I ended up getting voted out, it sucked. I was so bummed. And when you get voted out, the survivor psychologist person comes up and like debriefs you and gives you food, and they kind of just do like an evaluation of where you're at. And then the next day you also meet with them and kind of talk through things. And there are a lot of people that are really screwed up, like mentally. It's very, very hard on them. And it was hard on me, but I was just like, she just kind of smiled at me. She's like, Matt, you're rolling with the punches. Like, I was bummed, but I was also like, shit, I got to live the dream. I played Survivor.
Yeah.
They voted me out because of a stupid tribe swap. This sucks, but I get to like hang out with my friends, and we're going to go on a pre-jury trip to Malaysia. I was like, I get to go on this badass vacation. Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, you're going to make a bunch of like, prize, because I didn't know what money I was going to make. And I made decent money. So I was like, fuck, man. Like, I played Survivor for 16 days. I get to go on a vacation of a lifetime. I'm making money. This is one of the greatest life experiences. And then I'll be able to watch this on TV. And, 10 years later now, almost, I'm doing a podcast with you talking about my experience. So it's been a wonderful for me experience. Nothing, I wasn't getting a lot of hatred, messages and stuff, which is more so common, I think, now.
Yeah.
I mean, there was social media back then, but it's not like it is now. Like, that would be tough to go now.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I know that some players definitely I've seen them post the messages they've gotten and how just horrible people can be.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that adds that extra little piece when, it's already hard enough to play this, then come home. So with that, how was it for you? I know I asked you this, I think, in the Patreon group, and I asked you about how it was after the game. What was the hardest part for you? And you had a really great answer. So I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit about that now.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I speak from the heart when we're doing these Q&As, and I love the fact that I had a great answer for you, and thank you for, asking me to come on here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course.
But so when I finally got back from filming, I already had well, first of all, my stomach was totally jacked. I shit my pants, and I was. Oh, no. Well, let me back up. So I went to Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
And Shamar had been medically evacuated, so he was like he was not on this pre-jury trip. Brandon Hance had went mentally breakdown type thing.
Yes.
They said, we got to send your ass home, which they never do. They sent him home. So like I'm on a trip with nothing but women. I'm the only man.
Oh.
and they have to pair you up with a partner at hotels, right, to save money or whatever. So like I was always in a hotel room with a girl, and which I can imagine some people that have really jealous spouses, etc., would not have been cool with that. And I guess if I was in that situation, I would have bitched to see. I would have said, "Hey, you need to get my own room. My wife's gonna kill me if I'm with." But my wife doesn't care, so she cares. She trusts me, right? So it's
important.
So I remember my stomach was all messed up, and I remember being in a hotel with my friend Laura from my tribe, Goda, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, like I had like diarrhea in my pants in my sleep. I was like, so I woke up, I was like, fuck, I went and took a shower. I was all fucked up. And I laughed with Laura. I'm like, yep, I fucking shit my pants next to my friend Laura in a bed in Malaysia. You know what I mean? But I was ill. So you have to deal with the physical toll the game takes on you. But so when you get voted out and you play Survivor, and I'm on this paid vacation in Malaysia doing all this cool shit, it's like not reality at all, right? You're like drinking and eating and hanging out on the other end of the world. You just played this crazy game, and then you fly home and you have to say goodbye to all your friends that you made and had that crazy experience with, and you have to immediately get put back in the normal life, right? I didn't have my cell phone I was gone for nearly almost 2 months, almost like 8 weeks or whatever, right? So no communication. So like when I finally got home, it was a major reality check. I had a lot of issues with food. It took me a long time to adapt to like responsibilities and dad life, and because I had left like my businesses out that I was running, my BMX stuff. So my wife was like trying to like, hey Matt, while you were gone, this, and I'm just like, I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to even deal with this. So I slept a lot, and then I every morning I would go to McDonald's and get like sausage and egg biscuit and hash browns and a caramel frappe. I just wanted to eat food constantly. I did not want to be without food, big time. And but I tell you, and when I got back, I mean, the day that I got back, and I went into my kids were little. They're older, you know. I got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old now, but they were little. So I remember like when I was out there on the island, I started freaking out sometimes because I'm like, I was trying to hear what my kids' voices sounded like, but I couldn't hear them in my mind, and I started driving me crazy. So when I got home and I woke them up, they were sleeping, and just like I just grabbed each one of my kids. I started sobbing, crying like a baby. I just, oh my God, it just hit me like, oh, I've missed my family so much. And then with my wife, it was like honeymoon. It was there was an article that during COVID, I did an interview with Entertainment Weekly. Yeah. It was a COVID questionnaire, and the headline was one of Dalton Ross's favorite headlines. He's like, dude, you're going to love the headline. I'm like, oh, great. It says, Matt Bischoff has unbelievable sex after Survivor. And it was so funny because my wife's just like, Matt, you realize like like everyone's going to see this and shit. I'm like, people have sex. Husband, you know, how do you think we have the kids? So what it was like for my wife and I was like, it was like honeymoon. Like she just wanted to like, and so did I, have sex like constantly. And it was so cool because it was like, I have a really tight relationship with my wife. We're best friends. We'll be married 21 years here in a couple weeks. And we're just crazy about each other. And so we don't really have issues in general, but being away from one another, it was literally like you really appreciate what's important in life.
Yeah.
And that's family and the love you have for the people that you love, your friends and your wife and your kids and your parents or whatever the case may be. So it was really, really cool coming back and to see my family. But the reality of trying to get back into the swing of like, I was working from home at the time, but I was constantly thinking about Survivor and my crazy adventure. And it was very bizarre to adapt into, and I was skinnier. I mean, I went in the game weighing like 164 pounds and I weighed like 151. I was only in the game 16 days, but I lost some weight.
Yeah.
It takes a toll, and it took me like, a couple months to really adapt back to normal life. Once I played the game. So here's the thing. I had to keep a secret we filmed in May and June of 2012. And then my season didn't air until February of 2013.
Wow.
So I had to like not say anything to anybody for that whole time. And I wanted to tell the damn world that I was on Survivor, but I had to keep a secret the whole time. So like just keeping the secret and knowing that you have this big, huge life-changing thing happening that you can't tell anyone about is also really crazy and not normal. So if you're someone who, like I said, I have never suffered from any kind of mental illness or depression. I mean, like when my dad died when I was 14, it was like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I mean, but I that was horrifying. But I wasn't, I never went into like I never thought about suicide, or I never thought about doing drugs and alcohol to numb my pain, etc. I went through the grieving process, and music and my BMX kind of helped me through that entire thing. But so what I'm saying is, like, I'm a super positive, always look on the bright side kind of person. So like I was able to deal with this experience, but it was still difficult. So for people that have other kind of personality types, anxiety, depression, mental health issues, etc., it can be very, very bad. And thankfully, for me, I was able to finally come back and just kind of get back into the swing of my life. But when you then announce to the world that you're on Survivor, and then all of a sudden you're a reality star, like this is totally different than anything I just talked about this entire time. You are now a television personality, TV star on the biggest reality show pretty much in television history, the Mac Daddy of them all, CBS television, Survivor, prime time. I was on it. Every single, Time magazine or People magazine, whatever, all these media outlets are doing interviews and stuff with you. And so like I was kind of used to, when I was telling you I did my public access TV show and my BMX stuff, I was used to interacting with people and being on camera. So it didn't freak me out. If you're someone who's never been on camera before and you're thrown into this situation with interviews and press and everything else, that is a crazy thing for someone that's never been through that. So you're now a superstar for a short period of time. But when the cast was announced, I mean, anywhere that I would go in my hometown, I was recognized because I had my dreadlock beard, my long. I was an easily recognizable person, and every store I go into, when the show started airing and stuff like that, it was like constant. Can I get your picture? Can I get your autograph? Will you tell me about how's Jeff Probst? How's this? So my wife and we'd be at Target with my family, and someone would come up to me, and I was always cool as hell to every single fan. I would talk
That's
to
awesome.
every single fan. Let's get a picture. Cause I was like, fuck yeah, I'm just a dude that played Survivor. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And there's so many times where years later I would run across somebody and they'd come up to me and be like, hey, you're Matt from Survivor, right? And I was like, yeah. They're like, I met you like a couple years ago and you were so cool. And I'll never forget that time when I first met you. And whatever I said to them was like motivating or something. And those interactions were really what made my Survivor experience important. It's like, yes, you're going on there to play for $1 million, but when I touch the lives of somebody, a fan that maybe they've never met anyone remotely famous, and they see me on TV and they appear that I'm a famous guy, even though I'm not, I was cool to them. And there's a lot of people that are assholes to the fans. I was cool to every single person, and I try to be cool to even now I still get recognized from time to time, but I mean, it was years ago now, but
I know.
It was so nuts. My wife would be like, kids, let's go. Dad's going to talk for the next hour to these people. But it was fun. I loved it. I still love it, but it was, when the show starts airing on TV, I had viewing parties every week. And that, like I said, that is a whole nother realm. Watching myself on TV with a room full of people there to support me. I can't tell anyone how I did, and they're like, Matt, I know you're going to win the $1 million. I know you're going to go all the way. And I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah, cool. And then, yes, it was
a little awkward.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is my kids were little, like I told you. And when the episode aired that I got voted out, I did not tell my kids I was getting voted out that night. They saw me get voted out, and their young minds didn't realize. My kids started bawling, crying because Daddy got voted out, which then in turn makes me break down. And then I'm in a room full of people, I mean, I don't know, 150 people probably, or 200 people. It was an entire Buffalo Wild Wings packed to the brim. Every table was there to see me. And the woman at the Buffalo Wild Wings handed me a microphone. She's like, do you want to address the crowd? Because everyone's sad. Everyone's crying. Oh, Matt got voted out. And so I got on the microphone and I got super emotional, just like saying how, the support that I had and the love I felt, like people from high school and people were coming out of the woodwork to come. I was selling t-shirts and stuff, and it was such a freaking awesome thing. And every week at my viewing parties, they would donate 10% of the food sales to a charity of my choice. So I would have different, so I would do that. And it was so cool. The community rallied around me, and I will never forget those times. And when Roger Bingham from Survivor of the Australian Outback came to my viewing party one time, I was like, holy shit. Roger Bingham from Survivor's here watching me watch myself on Survivor. And
wow, what a thing. Wow.
I know. So it was really cool. And so it was just an unbelievable experience. And the only thing I will say is for people that don't know about my finale, I was not on the stage with my cast on my finale. So I didn't feel like I had closure at the live reunion show. That really pissed me off, and was very hard to not be, it was the only time in Survivor history where the whole cast wasn't on stage.
Yeah.
And it was my season, which there's a funny, the only good part about it is a funny meme somewhere of all the pre-jury people. They sat us in the front couple rows of the audience, and there's like a picture they panned to us, and we're just sitting there like super like pissed off looking, which is funny.
That is pretty funny. That's weird that they would do that.
Well, it's because there was drama between Philip Shepard and Brandon Hance, and then Russell Hance was like threatening to come there to beat up Philip or something stupid like that. So they're just like, we want to, so Brandon Hance was not able to, like, they're like, you're banned from coming to the reunion show. So
Wow.
we're going to try to disguise the fact that Brandon Hance is not here by not putting any of the pre-jury boots on
Oh,
stage. It's
okay.
total bullshit.
It
Probst
is.
gave us Probst said something like, there's not enough room on the way that we decorated the stage. There's not enough room for everybody. Total bullshit. It's the same fucking setup they have every time.
I was about to say, the stage probably didn't change too much.
Yeah, right.
So it just had to be. I can't imagine coming back and like all that attention that you were getting when, I mean, obviously, and I didn't really think about how you'd have to keep a secret between the two and how you're probably just talking to people and they're like, oh yeah, how have you been the past couple of months? And you're like, in your head, you're just like, I need to tell you, but I can't.
I know. Yep.
And it had to feel sort of isolating in a way.
It did. I mean, it was when you you have the biggest secret that you've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that you can't say anything because you can be sued by CBS for leaking the cast. So it's just like, that is like, talk about learning patience. I learned patience by that experience. I learned to appreciate just like clean water. Like I never even thought before going out there. I never thought about like how nice it is to have a refrigerator or a toilet. So when I came back and was able to, and still to this day, if I have like, I don't have one in here, but like if there's like, let's say a bottle of water sitting here that's been in here that's just like room temperature, I drink that shit all the time because like I didn't have anything that was cold. So I learned to just appreciate the littlest things, and that has stuck with me till today. I mean, it's never going to go away. I'm always going to appreciate the things and luxuries that I have because the majority, so many people in the world don't have luxuries. They're starving people that, little kids that don't have any presents for Christmas, or they don't even have food to eat. And the smallest things I appreciate, and I don't take things for granted. And I try to, like I said, make the best of every situation. And I'm not intimidated by anyone or anything ever again. When you go to casting and you're in a room with Jeff Probst and Lynn Spillman and every bigwig CBS executive, and you're in a little chair and you have to like prove to them, this is like the final interview where they take you to CBS studios where all the little sitcoms and talk shows and everything's are filmed. Mm-hmm. And that was my last interview. And so like whenever I go to a job interview or something like that, I'm like, people get all paranoid, like, oh, I got a job interview. I'm like, motherfuckers, I had a job interview with the network of CBS, and I got the job. So I am not scared of your piddly, scary boss guy interviewing me. I'm intimidated by no one. And that's kind of that experience kind of boost your confidence level for me. And I don't know. I just I try to go in with a positive attitude and look on the bright side. Like, well, I got voted out, but there's really nothing I could do based off the swap. I was a big threat, and everyone's just like, dude, like we voted you out because you were the most likable person out there, the biggest physical threat out of the, when I did the tribe swap, and we knew you didn't have an idol. So we voted you out, dude. Like, we love you. And it's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. But it's a very hard situation. And I was only in the game for 16 days. I know from talking to people that make it all the way to the 39 days that lose tons of weight, that get massive health issues for years, parasites, and just really bad stuff. I mean, marriages can be destroyed.
It's wild.
So they're trying to finally, I mean, I know there's been a big push of like more help with like you meet with the psychologist lady, but then that's pretty much it. Like you really, some people need long-term therapy for this shit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because it's it's not normal. That this is, and for someone that, like I said, I've always been on in front of cameras and I've been on TV shows before, so I kind of knew what it was like. So
Yeah.
for someone that just like is like a normal everyday person that's never had any of that kind of experience, that experiences this, it can really screw with you. And you're making true bonding relationships with people out there. And then if someone screws you over that you thought was your friend, it can be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I can only imagine. It's interesting how when even when I did like my little tiny short game, you get so close to these people that you met maybe for a day or two, and you're already just so much more bonded than some people even in your regular day life.
Oh, 100%. Like I told you off camera, I've done the Durham Warriors Survival Challenge of Bob
Mm-hmm.
Crowley's. They would have fans play this like 3-day game of Survivor, and then they would invite survivors to play. So right after my season, I got asked by Bob Crowley to play, and I played. It was awesome.
I hear
And
it's a
then
great game.
2 years later, I got someone bailed at the last minute, and they called me and said, "Would you play again?" I said,
Oh wow.
"Dude, hell yeah!" So I played again, and the bonds that I made and that experience, those two experiences on Durham Warriors were so powerful and great moments in my life with these people. Like you said, you bond, and it's such a wide, and this is like not even for money. This is for charity.
Mhm.
I took that game very seriously, and I wanted to compete, and I made it. The first time I played, I made it to the merge and the gross food eating challenge, and I made it pretty deep into the game.
That's awesome.
So it was so fun. So yes, these experiences. If you are listening to this and you are a fan of Survivor and you can play the Survival Challenge, which is in Illinois now, or Surviving Real Foot, or any of these Survivor-like games, it's definitely, if you can pull it off, it's worth it. Because I tell you, you are going to get the authentic Survivor experience without being on national TV and without $1 million, but you will get the experience.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I was actually one of the people that was on my cast even said, this is, you keep saying that it's not real Survivor. It is real Survivor, it just doesn't happen to be CBS.
That's
and
right.
I was like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. You're right.
Yeah, right.
So, we didn't have anything either, so
yeah, right.
nothing.
That's awesome.
So it was a cool experience. So, well, yeah. So thank you so much, Matt. It means so much to me that you were willing to do this with me, and also allowing me to use your page to be able to show this.
Yeah, my pleasure. And like I said, I definitely think that the fans that watch these shows that are keyboard warriors that go and attack people, we are all humans, and it affects people. And the thing is, it's like, it's kind of like if someone has like something crazy on their phone, like, "Hey, Matt, did you see this video of this train wreck that just happened?" You're like, "I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch, but I kind of want to see it, right?"
Yep.
And you want to watch it, then you can't unsee it, right? So like, even though you don't want to read the comments of people, come on, we're only human. If like everyone that's playing Survivor Season 41 right now is listening to Rob C's podcast, they're listening to Johnny and I's podcast, they're listening to Wendell's Purple Pants, Bryce and Wendell when they do Purple Pants podcast. I'm talking about Survivor. They're watching, Survivor Specialists. Any content they can watch, they're watching because they want to hear what people have to say, and that's sometimes difficult for me hosting with Johnny. Is we're breaking down the game of what I see in the game, and I might say this player is worthless or they suck. Heather's the worst, or whatever I say. It's all meant in good fun. And when I meet these people at a charity event, it's like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry I ragged on you," But keep in mind, try to be nicer to people that play these, whether it's Survivor, or Amazing Race, Big Brother, or any of these shows. I understand you get, as a fan, really invested, and if someone votes your favorite player out, then you're going to be pissed at the person that voted him out. But you got to remember, put yourself in the position. If you were on the show, how would you like it to get a damn death threat, or for someone to say, I hope your kids get hit by a car? How could you're the worst dad ever? It's bullcrap. And I just wish humanity in general would start being a little nicer to one another, because the whole point of your podcast you're doing is the reality of what it's like to play a game. It is a game. It's a game on a big scale, but it affects us. It can really, I mean, like I said, I've seen people's lives ruined. I've seen people turn to drug addiction and spiraling out of control after being on a reality show. And you see it on TMZ. People become train wrecks and can't handle it. So please, I beg you to try to be cool. And if everyone would just do a little bit better at just trying to be cool, then the world would be a way better place. So I'm done preaching about that stuff. But Sarah, thank you so much. I can't wait to see more guests talk about their experience, because I really love talking about my experience on it, because I'm always talking about Survivor and gameplay and breaking down stuff, but it was the real experience is what you go through, just as getting on the show and coming home and digesting everything and having to just kind of have your 15 minutes of fame, and then realize like this isn't like season 1, 2, and 3 when people are making like tons of money and starting careers like Elizabeth Hasselbeck. And Survivor nowadays, it's like, you're in, you do it. And then when season 41 is over, no one's going to give a shit. They're going to go, who's on 42? And that's hard for a lot of people to deal with, because you do feel a high of being man, I got recognized. Holy shit. Like, this is what it feels like to be famous, kind of, wow. And then when that disappears, if you don't have a strong support system and foundation and stuff like that, it can destroy you. So thank you again. And it's been super, super good time.
Yes, thank you, Matt. And I am so glad that you brought up the kindness, because that's one thing I always say about this season. The worst thing about season 41 is the fans.
Oh, yeah, it is.
100%. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Matt. And I'll be probably talking to you soon.
Right on. Cheers, right. You guys.
Yeah.